She was young, ambitious, and fearless. Lifestyle vlogger Naomi Price built her online career traveling the world, blending beauty, fashion, and the wildest landscapes she could find. Her smile, her energy, and her sense of adventure drew in thousands of loyal followers, eager to see what Naomi would capture next. But what her audience never knew was that her final upload would never reach the internet, because what began as a dream trip to Africa would spiral into a nightmare that ended in tragedy, a deadly encounter with one of nature's most powerful animals. How did a simple recording session end with Naomi Price being struck down by a charging elephant? This is the horrifying last video of lifestyle vlogger Naomi Price, struck down by a charging elephant. This is how it began. Naomi Elizabeth Price was just 26 years old when she stepped onto African soil for the very first time. Born in Portland, Oregon, she grew up in a quiet neighborhood where the loudest sound at night was the wind through the pines. Yet Naomi had always dreamed louder than her surroundings. She wanted more than the safety of routine. She wanted the thrill of the unknown. By her mid-20s, Naomi had transformed that hunger for discovery into a thriving career as a lifestyle vlogger. Her channel blended beauty tutorials and wellness tips with something few dared to combine: raw, unfiltered adventures in nature. She didn't just sell cosmetics, she sold an image of fearlessness, of someone who could look flawless in the middle of a desert or a rainforest. Her followers adored her for it. They weren't just watching makeup, they were watching a young woman step boldly into the world's most dangerous corners. Her comment sections overflowed with admiration. "You're living the dream, Naomi. How do you stay so calm out there? You make us believe we can do anything." She became more than a vlogger. To her community, Naomi was proof that with courage and a camera, anyone could break free from the ordinary. But those who knew her off-screen whispered a different truth. Friends described her as radiant, determined, but also restless. Her mother once confided, "She was adventurous, but sometimes too adventurous." Naomi wasn't afraid to cross boundaries even when danger was close. To her, the risk was part of the story. In 2022, that need for the next big adventure pushed her toward a new theme: documenting untouched wilderness. She announced it in one of her last uploads, her voice brimming with excitement. "I want to take you to places where people don't usually go. I want to capture the raw, the real, the untamed." Her fans erupted with support. It felt like the start of something bigger, a new chapter in her career. But beneath the cheering emojis and heart-filled comments was an unspoken question. How far would Naomi go to prove herself? The answer would take her across an ocean, to the vast savannas of Kenya, and into the path of an animal whose sheer power had humbled even the bravest explorers. And as the sun rose over the grasslands on the morning of September 14th, 2022, Naomi's camera was already rolling, capturing her laughter, her confidence, her final hours. She had no idea that this would be the last sunrise she would ever record. In early September 2022, Naomi Price boarded a flight from Portland to Nairobi, Kenya. She was excited, restless, and unstoppable, posting updates to her followers from the airport lounge. "This is it, guys. My biggest series yet. I'm calling it Life Untamed. You're coming with me." Her fans flooded the comments with encouragement, but no one could have predicted that those words would later sound like a haunting prophecy. When she landed, Naomi wasted no time. She connected with a small safari company in Amboseli National Park, an expanse of golden grassland shadowed by the towering peak of Mount Kilimanjaro. Here, elephants roamed in herds, free and untamed, the very image she wanted to capture for her channel. But Naomi wasn't just another tourist clutching a camera from the safety of a Jeep. She told her guides that she wanted more. She wanted angles no one had dared to take before. Shots up close, intimate, raw. To Naomi, this wasn't just content, it was her breakthrough. And in the world of online fame, risk often translates to reward. Her guides, men who had lived their entire lives in the shadow of these giants, warned her gently. Elephants, especially the matriarchs, were unpredictable, territorial, and fiercely protective of their young. To them, a tripod and a smiling vlogger meant nothing. To them, Naomi was an intruder. A wildlife expert later explained it simply: Elephants communicate danger before they act. They flare their ears, rumble in deep tones, and kick up dust. But if those warnings are ignored, there's only one outcome. With elephant, he said, distance means safety. Closing that gap can be fatal. Naomi listened, but only partly. Her ambition pulled her forward, her camera always just a little closer to the herd. In her mind, this was the content her followers craved. The kind of footage that would set her apart from every other vlogger online. The days that followed were filled with awe. She filmed wide shots of elephants grazing at dawn, her voice brimming with excitement. They're even more beautiful in real life than I ever imagined. Look at them. They don't even know I'm here. Her smile was genuine, her spirit unshaken. But behind her joy was a dangerous truth. Every step closer blurred the line between admiration and provocation. And then came the morning of September 14th, 2022. A calm day beneath the African sun. Naomi set out once more with her camera, her guides uneasy but silent. She wanted one final shot, something spectacular, something that would crown her series. She didn't know that as the lens focused, something else was already watching her. Something that would not allow her any closer. The sun was high above Amboseli on September 14th, 2022. The air shimmered with heat, the grasslands stretching endlessly under the watch of Kilimanjaro. Naomi Price had woken early that morning, her energy bright and unshaken. She adjusted her DSLR onto a tripod, her smile filling the frame as she prepared what she promised would be the highlight of her Life Untamed series. Her voice was alive with wonder. These elephants are so majestic. Look how close I can get. This is unbelievable. The camera captured her excitement, her fearless posture, and just behind her, the vast shapes of the herd grazing quietly in the distance. Her guides shifted uneasily, whispering warnings. They had seen this story before. A stranger enchanted by beauty, unable to see the danger that lay in the silence. They urged her to keep her distance, but Naomi's eyes never left her lens. To her, the elephants were not a threat. They were a masterpiece waiting to be filmed. Then the signs began, subtle at first, almost invisible to the untrained eye. An elephant turned sharply, its ears spreading wide like sails. Another stomped, heavy and deliberate, sending vibrations through the ground. A low rumble traveled across the air, too deep for the camera to catch, but powerful enough to raise the hairs on the guide's arms. Naomi didn't notice. She was speaking to her audience, her voice light, distracted, unaware. I think this is the closest I've ever been. You guys, look at her. She's beautiful. She's coming toward me. But the beauty Naomi saw was a warning the animal gave. The matriarch of the herd had made her decision. To her, Naomi wasn't a filmmaker. She was a threat to the calves huddled nearby. The ground shifted with the sudden thunder of movement. The elephant charged. Naomi's eyes widened, the camera trembling as she scrambled back. The guides shouted frantically, but the sound was drowned by the piercing trumpet of rage. Her tripod toppled. The lens spun sideways, capturing only fragments. Her feet stumbling in the dirt. Her desperate cry, the growing shadow that engulfed her. In a matter of seconds, the serene calm of the savanna was gone, replaced by chaos and terror. 6 tons of unstoppable power bore down on her, closing the distance with terrifying speed. The last thing the camera caught was the violent blur of dust in motion, followed by a scream that cut through the silence of Amboseli. And then, nothing. But for Naomi, the nightmare was only beginning. The charge came like a storm, swift and merciless. Naomi barely had time to scream before the matriarch's enormous frame collided with her. The impact was like being hit by a speeding truck. She was lifted off her feet, her body flung violently into the dust. The sound of the blow echoed across the savanna, chilling the guides to their core. Shouts erupted. Men waved their arms, clapped, and screamed, desperate to drive the animal back. But the elephant was not finished. With a roar of fury, the matriarch wheeled around and struck again, her tusks slicing through the air, her weight pounding into Naomi's fragile frame. The earth itself seemed to tremble with each step. "Get her out! Get her out!" one of the guides cried, panic rising in his voice. Another tried to distract the giant by hurling stones and shouting, but nothing broke her focus. Dust filled the air, choking, blinding, making it impossible to see where Naomi had landed. The second blow drove the breath from her lungs. She lay still, her body broken, blood staining the pale earth beneath her. The guides rushed forward, their hearts pounding as the elephant finally pulled back. Snorting clouds of dust, ears spread wide in defiance. And then, as suddenly as it began, the matriarch retreated to her herd, her duty to protect complete. "She's not moving!" another guide shouted, his voice cracking with terror. Hands reached for Naomi, pulling her limp body from the ground. Her camera lay shattered nearby, the once bright lens now cracked and buried in the dirt. Her device, which had been meant to capture beauty and wonder, had recorded only fragments of horror. Half a scream, a blur of movement, the chaos of men shouting in desperation, before falling silent forever. The guides carried her to the waiting jeep, their hands trembling as they tried to stop the bleeding. Her chest was crushed, ribs shattered, internal injuries catastrophic. Her eyes flickered open for a moment, as though she were fighting to cling to life, but the damage was too severe. Every minute counted. They sped across the plains toward the nearest medical station, dust trailing behind them like a funeral veil. But with every bump in the road, every desperate glance at her pale face, one truth became clear. Naomi was slipping away. And somewhere in the distance, the elephants continued their march, calm and unbothered, as if nothing had happened at all. But Naomi's story wasn't over yet, because what happened in that jeep, and what doctors would soon reveal, would shock even the men who had witnessed the attack with their own eyes. By the time Naomi reached the small hospital in Amboseli, it was already too late. Doctors worked frantically, their voices sharp and urgent, but the injuries were insurmountable. Her chest had been crushed, her lungs collapsed, her body torn apart by force no human could endure. At 11:42 a.m. on September 14, 2022, Naomi Elizabeth Price was pronounced dead. The news spread faster than anyone could have imagined. Within hours, global headlines screamed across screens, "Vlogger killed by elephant in Kenya." Social media platforms overflowed with disbelief. Fans who had woken up that morning expecting another cheerful update from Naomi instead faced the unthinkable. Clips from her smiling vlogs began to resurface, reshared with sorrow. In one video, she laughed as she tried street food in Bangkok. In another, she hiked through a desert canyon, her eyes wide with wonder. Now, those same images stood in painful contrast to the grim reality of her final moments on the savannah. Her community flooded the internet with grief. "You inspired me every day. This doesn't feel real. She lived so brightly, how could she be gone?" Naomi's channel, once a place of joy and exploration, had become a shrine. Experts weighed in as the debate raged. Wildlife conservationists explained again and again, elephants are not killers by nature. They do not hunt, they do not seek revenge. They protect, they defend. And when humans push too close, when they ignore the signs, tragedy becomes inevitable. With elephants, distance is respect, one expert warned. When we forget that, we pay the price. But beneath the expert commentary lingered a heavier question. Had Naomi's hunger for the perfect shot, the perfect video, the perfect story pushed her into danger she could not escape? Was her passion for content creation the very thing that led her to her death? Her family, shattered by grief, released a statement from Portland that echoed across the world. Naomi lived her life fearlessly. She was driven by love, by wonder, by the belief that the world was meant to be explored. But she didn't deserve this ending. And yet behind those words lay an even deeper silence. The silence of unanswered questions, of regret, of what could have been if Naomi had only stepped back that day instead of forward. Because even as the headlines faded, one haunting truth remained. The camera that had built her life also captured her last moments. And somewhere in its final frames, the shadow of an elephant marked the line between her dreams and her death. Naomi Price wanted to inspire the world. Instead, her story became a haunting reminder. In the wild, animals are not props. They are powerful, unpredictable, and they demand respect. She dreamed of connection, of leaving her mark, and in a way she has. Her story is now a warning and a legacy. If Naomi's story moved you, help us keep her memory alive. Like this video, Subscribe for more stories and share it so the world never forgets the cost of chasing the wild.